So, but tell me how you got there. So, um, I know a little bit about your path, but I want to know some of your mindset through your path. So, when you went to culinary school,
I did.
what was that? So, has that always been a lifelong, like you were cooking with family, like since a child, or did this hit you in college? Like, when did that become something you knew you wanted to pursue?
I've always had a fascination with food. When I was little, I would make mud pies and tell my neighborhood friends that I was going to open a restaurant one day. My mom was not a chef or a cook or anything like that. I learned from my grandmothers, and my grandfather came from a big Mexican family, so there was always delicious food around. And then my grandparents on my mom's side, they owned a fast food restaurant in Farmington, New Mexico, the Taco Box, which is actually still around today. It's not owned by my grandparents anymore. But so my aunts, and my grandparents ran this restaurant. And so I think I've just always grown up with food, with entertaining. My family is big. We always had big, elaborate gatherings. And so I think it really started when I was younger.
Grandma was always cooking. Mm-hmm. She like my Italian grandmother, you never got a recipe, but it always turned out perfect.
So she is Irish.
Okay.
And I don't really know how my grandparents got into doing the taco box with fried, like Navajo tacos, and everything had green chili and fry bread. So I don't know how they got into that, but so I was always around food. My grandfather taught me how to make fry bread. My grandmother she was just an amazing natural cook. And so I learned from her at a young age how to make her spaghetti sauce, or she made these cake brownies, or delicious carrot cookies. So just things that she was really good at. And then when I was younger, or when I was about 20, I went to culinary school.
That's a big leap. So you're thinking, I'm going to make some money off of it. This is going to be a career.
Yes.
Yeah, at that point.
I thought it was going to be a career.
Well, it clearly is a career. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
You were going to go into being a chef potentially, like the restaurant life. Did that intrigue you at all? Did you know anything about? I mean, that's a whole different culture, right?
Yes. So I worked in the restaurant industry for a little bit. I worked for a Troon up at Anthem Country Club, and I learned quickly that the kitchen was not for me. I didn't like the hours. I was always away from my family on the holidays, and the pay was terrible. And I was working 12 to 14 hours. At that time, my ex-husband and we had met in culinary school and graduated together. So he was working at another kitchen.
Oh, wow.
And we just that's all we did.
Crossing paths.
And
I always wonder, do they tell you that in culinary school?
no.
Okay.
And I think when I had gone to culinary school, that is when the celebrity chef thing was coming to fruition.
Chopped
like
was coming
Giada
out. Yes.
De Laurentiis was coming out. And so I think that was my goal at one point. Once I got into the industry, I really kind of lost my passion and just my zest for cooking anymore, because I wasn't able to be creative. I had to stick to a menu. And a lot of the kitchen politics are rough, and especially being a female in a kitchen 20 years ago, it's completely different than what it is now, where you will see kitchens that are fully run by only women. And so I just knew that that's not what I wanted to do. So a girlfriend of mine that we went to culinary school together, we actually ended up opening a catering business. And we went out and did personal chefing for really high-end clients, and it was awesome. I loved it. She loved it. We were able to create a whole experience. So it wasn't just the food, but we got to interact with our clients, and we would bring a bartender in, and we would set the table, and that is where I really knew that that's where I could shine. And so I got out of the, chef life.
You say that without blinking or missing a beat, but that's a really big decision. And it's also funny when you say that they don't tell you about that in culinary school. It's like going to business school and them not saying you're probably going to go bankrupt 3 or 4 times before you actually become financially successful if you're trying to start a business. But that leads me to this question, which is in Troon at the country club, you have a paycheck. Was there any financial anguish or anxiety for you to say, I'm done with this, I can't stand it, I'm just going to try to do this on my own, where nothing is guaranteed? And in fact, the only thing that is guaranteed is I'm going to go into debt a little bit, probably, to get this started. So how much did it cost you? Did you think about that? Was it worrisome, or you just...
I didn't. I think I was so young and naive and...
Thank God, right?
Dumb at that point.
Thank God.
That I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is making me miserable. And so I quit. My co-owner of My Girl Friday is what the business was called back 20 years ago. She was in the same boat. And we just decided that we had a little bit of money to invest.
How much is a little bit? If someone wants to start a catering business, $1,000. That was some time ago. Would that still hold true today?
Probably not.
Okay, so maybe a little bit more.
Right. But I also had the culinary knowledge behind me. So I had recipes already. I had some I already had my knife set and all of that I had from culinary school that I could use, and so did my girlfriend.
And you've clearly been trained and put in the time. How many years is that?
So I went to school for a year, but it was...
Worked in Troon for another...
I did about 6 months.
Okay, so maybe a couple years total, plus all your previous experience. In other words, I'm trying to say, if you've never cooked in your life, you shouldn't go start a catering business. You have to put in something. There's no fast track there, and you put in 2 years ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah, and that had to have lent to your success, at least early on. The foundation?
I believe so. Because when I started the charcuterie business, I had the culinary background behind me, and so I knew how to do cost sheets and things like that, and I knew what flavors went really well together. Yes, charcuterie has become a popular thing. However, doing good charcuterie is completely different.
Tell me what that means. What is good charcuterie versus a normal charcuterie?
Pairing things properly, not buying everything in bulk at Costco, doing the research, tasting cheeses, tasting different meats, going out and searching for different purveyors. What types of cheese do you want to use? What types of meat? Is this going to go good together? So you have to constantly be researching, and also going out and finding things that inspire you. So my travels inspire me to try new flavors. And so I think that comes through on my charcuterie boards, and I think that comes through when I cook for my clients.
This episode of Casita Conversations is brought to you by Tropics Collective. Tropics uses only the highest quality Delta-9 and THC ingredients to bring you the very best of what cannabis has to offer. It's Farm Bill compliant, which means it's legal in all 50 states for everyone. Give it a try today, and if you use our promo code, you'll save 15% on your entire first order. Go to tropicscollective.com and use the promo code Casita to get your discount today. Tropics Collective is defining the art of cannabis.
Do you ever, I'm getting a little bit off track here, but I am in love with charcuterie, so I'm going to get off track a few times probably. Do you ever take feedback or requests from a client where you say, give me your profile. Are you a sweet person? Are you a salty person? Are you a strong flavor person? Are you not a strong? In other words, do you ever customize that board to that person?
I do.
Because maybe not everybody is ready for the blue cheese gargonzola mix.
Right. I do. I actually have a client that has ordered multiple boards from me, and I just did a custom board for them where they wanted pepperoncinis and mozzarella and pepperoni. So, okay, great. How can I...
A more Italian theme.
Yeah.
And you've been to Italy. So is that tripping your trigger when someone goes, give me something Italian theme?
Yeah.
And you go, I know how to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Mortadella and some mini sandwiches.
Right.
Oh, that bread. Come on.
I know. I love bread. I could eat bread all day long. Bread and cheese and wine are...
Once I went to Italy, I had a new appreciation for the panini and just the types of bread that here, it's okay. But when you went there, I want it every day and multiple times a day. And you don't feel the same. I never got that, right? So I came back and tried to replicate it, go to Guido's, go to, the Italian grocers here. Doesn't matter. Nothing is replicated.
It isn't. And our food, it's the way our food is processed here, and they use a different form of flour over there. So I'm the same way. I ate bread and cheese and wine every single day, and I'm like, how is it that I still feel good? So I do make custom boards.
Awesome. What, okay, so it didn't even cross your mind. You say young and naive, thankfully, that you just took this giant leap and started. Did you have financial backing where if you weren't quite successful, you could say, fuck it, I'll start something else?
No. I figured if I didn't attempt to do it, I would never know. And
you burned the boats.
Yeah.
You just burned the
I'm
boats.
kind of that
Let's
way.
do it.
Though I am that way. I do it full force, or I'm not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's always the best way to go about things, but it has worked for me. I think if I sit and constantly question myself, I'm never going to do it.
And did you go right into charcuterie, or did you say you did some catering first and then landed in the or did you know coming out of your restaurant gig, I want to go into these custom charcuterie boards?
So actually, after I did worked in the kitchen, and then I owned my own catering business with one of my co-owner, basically, of My Girl Friday, I took a really long break, and I became a mom. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 9 years. However, I always kind of dabbled and continued to do something with food. At one point, I did chocolates, and I would make truffles, and I sold those
So
during
you were
the
a very
holidays.
popular mom then.
During the holidays, and I did fairly well at that. But my main focus was my daughter, and at that point, I was able to stay home and not really have to worry financially. However, it's me going through my divorce, and I battled cancer 3 years ago, that's really what triggered me to start my charcuterie business.
So you were diagnosed with cancer before this business?
Yes. Mm-hmm. During COVID.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What other cards could be stacked against you? So when that happens, what's your mindset? I mean, obviously it's devastating.
Well,
to get the diagnosis first, but then when you've worked your mind through some of the health part of that, you then go, is it now or never? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. And I think going through something as traumatic as that, and knowing that, oh my gosh, did I live my life and do everything that I truly wanted to do, or did I live my life to my full potential? You really start to stare that in the face. And at that point, I wasn't. I was at a low, low, low point in life. Like I said, I was recovering from cancer. I had just gone through a divorce, and it was me. I was the only one that I didn't have another income. So I had to think of
with
something.
someone you're taking care of, right? Your daughter.
So I needed to figure out quickly what I could do to have some income. And I knew I didn't want to work a 9-to-5 job. I've tried it many times. It is not a good situation for me. I lose focus. It's not for me. So I knew I needed to kind of look at myself and figure out what I'm really good at, what I'm truly passionate about. And I think I've always questioned myself and if I was good enough to be successful. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs question that in themselves. Am I good enough to where I could succeed? And putting yourself out there is scary. And so I finally just...
What was the first step? You put yourself out there. What does that mean? So you said you made the decision, this is going to be charcuterie, custom charcuterie boards. Mm-hmm. And now what?
So my very first event I did for my mom. She hired me to do a graze and for her community. They do a get together once a month, and 30 guests were going to be there. And so I printed out some business cards, designed a really quick logo, came up with a quick name, and just did it. Scary. And from there, it was just
what
like...
piece of that were you anxious about? Because I think, if I could guess, I would think you had confidence in the board, the actual product. Mm-hmm. Yeah? I mean, or not?
Yeah, I did, but you never know. You never know.
It's still a creation.
Exactly.
Your creation that someone could turn their nose up to or completely love it.
Yep. And so it was successful. And then a couple of those neighbors that were at the event hired me, and it just went from there. I've only been in business for a year, but I've been busy. It's been through word of mouth. Just
referrals.
Exactly.
You beat me to the punch when I was going to ask you how'd you go from one client to many and being busy, and it's just simply over delivering, under promising. Your product is amazing, and people start talking. You
have to be, in my opinion, you have to be really passionate about what you are doing, and Yes, I did start this business to make an income to support my daughter, but I also knew that I wanted to do something that was going to make me happy at the end of the day. And I think that I put everything I possibly can into a board that I create, because I know what food does for people. And sitting down to enjoy a meal and a glass of wine and a great conversation it's such an amazing experience. And if I can be part of that and bring that to my clients, that's really what makes me happy.
It seems like you turned passion into a product and then figured out how to turn it back into your passion, which is tricky, because a lot of people turn their passion to product and go, now I just don't want to have anything to do with this anymore. I love food. Well, I'll go be a chef. Well, now I'm burned out. I don't want to have anything to do with cooking for anybody. But you've turned that on its head and figured out how to keep that. I mean, it's got to be a good feeling now that the jitters are out of the way, knowing that when you show up, the party starts. I mean, really, nobody sees you on a bad day typically, right? I mean, it's like,
no.
This is date night, this is celebration, and you get to be a part of that.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons I started Charcuterie Creative is I know how important these special moments and events are in people's lives. And if I can be a part of that and make it even more special, and memorable, I love that.
And there's also probably a little bit of pressure still.
Oh, 100%.
Because
100%.
That could make or break a good party.
Yeah.
A spoiled cheese could make or break it, right?
Right.
So so you've got the early stages are gone. You're several months into this. You're doing it for, I would say, friends and family, the first gig, right? Kind of?
Right.
Yeah, 30 people. And then in the first year, what's your biggest gig? Now, where have you gone from there?
I did the Fine Art Expo for 450 guests. That was
over 10 times, 15 times the amount of people. When you take that order, which is, was that a referral as well? Someone that had...
It wasn't, actually. I had reached out to this client, and I didn't know anything about her event or project. And she reached back out to me, and I chatted with her on the phone. Judy, who's actually the owner of Fine Art Expo.
So you just saw somewhere that there was an event happening, and you said, hey, Judy, this is what I do. Or did you not even know about this event?
I emailed her.
So
I
we
thought
would
it
call
was
that
going
a
to
cold
maybe
call, right?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be maybe 100 people. Once I got on the phone, she said, no, it's for 450 people. I'm not sure that I would have been able to do it if I didn't have my previous background working in a kitchen, learning how to multitask. I don't know if I would have been able to pull it off. However...
And pricing, that has to change drastically from 30 to 450 with cost of food, all that stuff.
Exactly. But
you knew that from the foundation you laid going through school and working at Troon. And
it was huge. It took me about a week to prep. I hired my mom and 3 of my friends to help me out. And I wouldn't have taken on the job if I didn't have a team behind me that I know has the same expectations of product and work ethic that I have. And they agreed. So we worked our butts off and were able to accomplish an amazing event. And we will be doing it again in January. So
That's
that was a
awesome.
huge
I
accomplishment.
could tell that means a lot to you too.
That was
I mean,
a
you're getting
huge-
choked up talking about it.
That was a huge accomplishment for me, and I think that's really what I needed as to solidify that I was on the right road. And once that happened,
Confidence and although someone might look at what you had done already and said, well, I would assume you already had that confidence because you've executed it so many times, but then you get to that level and go, oh, I can do the big ones too. The same way I can do the small ones.
I'm confident in it, but the problem is competition's fierce.
Is it a competitive
I
market?
stole that. I shouldn't say steal.
We could edit
I
that.
took that account from somebody else.
Correct.
And so competition is fierce and it's hard. And so I think that's where the jitters come in. Is, oh my gosh, I hope that I'm as good as the company that has been catering for Fine Art Expo for the last 20 years. And but things change, products change. People want to see something new.
Something different.
And I was able to give them something different and new and fun. And they loved it.
And cooking and charcuterie boards and this, it's really a creation. I mean, there's definite art to it, clearly, right?
Yes.
So I think as time goes on, you start to wonder less about it's almost like just art musicians in general. I'm a musician. I love to listen to other music. It takes a long time to not stack yourself up to other musicians, but that's not the point of art. The point of art is to be you.
Right.
And there's a segment of the population that ain't going to like you. And that's totally fine. But there's a huge segment, if you're honest and transparent and true with yourself, that's going to absolutely adore everything you do because it's an art. It's not just a product. If you had changed that passion into a product and stopped there, then you would be competing in that arena. But you turned it back into this passion. So now you're competing in the art arena, not the business arena.
Right.
That's a whole different arena to be in. Now you have to have a little business savvy to survive, but you're in the art world. You really are.
I would say, yeah. I mean, it takes a while to create those.
And it takes your mind. It's not
does.
You're not using a blueprint that someone can
No.
just, blueprint
Most
out.
of my boards I do are custom. They all have the same, ounces of ingredients, but I really try and make every board just a little bit unique so everybody is getting something different.
And that's a small piece of you, right? That they're not going to get from that next competitor. So next time you're not thinking, well, I hope I'm as good as them. Maybe it's the thought is, I hope I'm different than them.
Yeah.
Because if I'm the same, I'm going to lose that account next year to the next person that comes along.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you're different.
So you always have to be thinking and how can I up my game? How can I continue to be creative? What can I add on? What do I need to take away? And I'm always open to constructive criticism. If my clients are like, wasn't my favorite board, great, what did I do? Or how can I make this better? And so I've been in customer service since I was 19. And so the customer relationship is so important to me. And I think that's what really helps guide me in the decisions that I make when I am creating a board or when I'm going to add a product. Is this something that my client is gonna like? Is it gonna make their event more special or unique? Or what can I do to create an event that's gonna be memorable to them?
Put yourself in their shoes.
Yeah.
Can you scale that? Because you're clearly so good at it. How do you find other people, if you even care to scale it to like a next level? I used to ask people, what is the next thing? But I hate that question because who knows, right? But if you intended to scale it, you'd almost have to find a clone of you, which doesn't exist, right? So how could you take that idea and continue? Like get past what just you personally could handle?
I have a bunch of creative friends that most likely I would use to. Actually, one of the girls that helps me with the big event for the Fine Art Expo, she's an interior designer, so I know she has a creative eye. My mom is the same way. Another one of my friends that helped me, she is very can get things done instantly. And so if I was to create a team, they are my dream team. If I could hire them and come work with me all the time, I would. But I don't know what the next thing is right now. What I know I'm doing is I'm slowly growing because I don't want to burn myself out. I've already done that, working in a kitchen. So at this point now, I'm just slowly adding sandwiches and salads and smaller bites.
Tacos and fried bread.
I did do a taco bar for a bachelor
How did
party.
that go?
It was great.
Oh my gosh.
And I did it like a grazing experience that you would find on my website.
Yeah. Okay.
And everything was beautifully, aesthetically pleasing. And so I'm slowly growing. And like I said, being a mom is still my number one priority.
And how old is your daughter?
She's 13.
13. Is she getting into any of this with you or going with you on some gigs? Yeah.
I actually have hired her to help me a couple times. She's trying
It's
to
a good tax spread-off, by the way.
She is trying to pay her way for New York, for a New York and Washington trip. So I figured I'd pay her a little bit to come help me.
Wow.
And to instill
That's
some
so
work
valuable.
instill some work ethic in her. So at this point, I think my next step is just slowly getting into expanding my menu, and I'm really wanting to get more into the personal chef stuff again. And I just had an event that I did this past weekend.
Oh, really? And now you have to bring in outside folks probably to help you with that. It's not a one-person gig, or it is?
I probably wouldn't do any more than 20 people. If I was going to have 20 guests or more, I would bring in somebody with me.
What, now that you are not young and naive when you started and you have someone that's dependent on you, although you're along about a year in business, is there any fear? You still don't have a safety net, right? I mean, it's still what you produce and create generates your livelihood and the livelihood for your daughter. Is there any anxiety or fear that ever creeps up? Like, what if the orders stop next week or not?
Oh, I'm going through that right now. It's summer in Arizona, and nobody, people aren't having the big extravaganzas that they do throughout the year. They're not having graduations. It's not Mother's Day. It's not the holidays. So stress creeps in all the time.
And what do you do? What's the coping mechanism? Is it nose to the grind, let's figure out some new marketing angle, let's go out and pound the streets? Or is it introspective, let me try to just create some new boards so that when things do pick up, I'm ready to be at a different level? What is it for you?
So I did travel to help because I was kind of starting to get a little bit stressed out. I was doubting myself. I think all business owners go through that. When you see a drop in business, you're doubting yourself. Oh my gosh, now what do I do? So I did some traveling to get my creative juices flowing again. And I have started to look at designing new boards. I am looking at what I'm going to do for the holidays already and some ideas there. I have been posting on social media quite a bit. And so I think that's where I'm focusing right now, is trying to get, hey, is there clients that I can reach through Instagram or Facebook? Do they even just need a board? Are they having a meeting? So right now that is one area I struggle with, is how to catch that next client, because my business is word of mouth. So I need to go out and find that extra business.
Just diversify those funnels a little bit?
Yeah, and I think, I really need to amp up my email game. So those are things I'm looking at right now, is what are other ways to market myself, especially in this really slow time.
And as an entrepreneur, are you outsourcing, or are you going, this may not be my forte, but I'm going to figure out email marketing, or this may not be my forte, but I'm going to figure out social media marketing? What's your take on that?
I'm kind of doing everything by myself right now. I have owned a business in the past that I did from home. I owned a papery business, so I sold like party supplies and things like that. But I did that when I was a stay-at-home mom with my daughter when she was young, just to give me something to do. And so I learned how to do email marketing there. But I'm definitely looking at taking classes or virtual classes to learn how to do email marketing. I would love to learn more about how to market myself on social media. I do everything right now. I take pictures. I make the boards. I'm a one-woman show. And so I know that in order for me to grow, I need to start outsourcing. I need to hire somebody and ask for help.
But it'll pay dividends to know what you're hiring, how it works a little bit. I always like to get involved just enough to know if someone's trying to take advantage of me, or how these things work at a high level, so that when I'm hiring for that, you just kind of know. You just kind of know if you're getting taken advantage of, or if they're doing a great job, or it's average, because you've done just enough of it to figure that out.
Yep. I've learned a couple times working with some SEO companies that I probably need to step back and figure out what I'm actually paying for.
What S and E and O actually mean?
Yeah, and why am I paying so much for this? Because, when you're a small business, your budget is small. And hopefully, eventually, I can figure some of those little things out and find a company that I can work with that I really trust. And but I know that I don't know, I'm just kind of...
Some of it's exciting, though, right?
It's super
because
exciting. It's
scary.
New,
it's scary,
exciting.
but it's... Yeah.
And you have to take the plunge and...
And who knows where it ends up.
Exactly,
That's the exciting
exactly. Part. And if I never would have taken the initial steps, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Do you think if you hadn't got the cancer diagnosis, you wouldn't be in this either line of business or where you are today?
Probably not. Like I said, I was just so lost 3 years ago. I really didn't have any idea what I was going to do. Even when I was married, I was the stay-at-home mom. I was behind the scenes. And so I was just lost for a really long time. And my whole identity became a wife and mom. And so I think maybe eventually I would have gotten here.
But that accelerated the process.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Any advice for those that are at home, stay-at-home moms, or dads, I guess, at this point in age? Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes you see that. It's still not as common, I don't think. But how do you find that identity? Or is it good enough? Was it good enough? Were you satisfied enough with it that your identity was wife and mom? Or was there always something in the back going, there's still a piece of Holly that needs to shine through somewhere outside of a reliance on what other people?
I was not content. I knew there was something always in, eating at me that I have. What is my purpose? And not only that, I've also been through 3 kidney transplants. And so that my immunosuppressive drugs is actually what caused me to have cancer. And so when you are faced with those type of health issues and you're still a survivor, I think it's even was just nagging at me. What is my purpose? Why am I still here? How was it that I was able to overcome this 3 transplants and cancer and I'm still here? What is my purpose? And so that was just eating at me day and night. And so I knew I was really good at cooking. I knew I was good with food. And I figured if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. And I'm going to regret my decisions. Or I'm going to look back one day and think, what? Did I just waste?
What if?
What if? Mm-hmm.
What if? Okay, so
fun.
Your website is?
Charcuterie Creative.
Charcuteriecreative.com.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from you will go deliver a charcuterie, just drop it off for date night, all the way up to 500 people events or more. Any day of the week in the East Valley right now, Phoenix, surrounding areas right now. And what's the best way someone can get a hold of you?
Email holly@charcuteriecreative.com. You can text me.
And you are on Instagram. I think we
I'm
found
on
each other there.
Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm now on Threads.
How is that? I haven't gone on Threads yet.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I think everybody is still fumbling through Threads. And
What
I
is
do
it? How
like
does
it
it
because
work?
it's similar to Twitter. You don't have to do any silly hashtags. And it's not a bunch of pretty pictures. It's kind of random thoughts, I guess.
Just random thoughts in a thread.
In a thread, yeah.
Genius.
You can find me on TikTok. And
are you doing some of these samples where people can see the pictures and see some of these creations? You said you're starting to take some more videos and pictures of these things?
all of my pictures you can find on Facebook, Instagram. My website is loaded with pics of all the work that I've done.
Awesome. Awesome. If you could say one last thing, this is the last thing that your daughter heard in her entire life from you, what would you tell her?
Go for your dream and work as hard as you can to fulfill that dream. And everybody's dream is different. So as long as you're happy at the end of the day.
That's awesome. And Mom has shown her that.
I hope so. I think she knows. And I hope that that's a legacy I leave to her one day, is if you want something and you're passionate about it, you'll find a way to figure out how to make it happen.
You can get it.
And you can get it with a lot of work. But there's also days where I'm in tears. So being an entrepreneur is not easy. But if you're truly passionate about it and it makes you happy, you'll always find a way.
Well, cheers to you showing her that for many, many more years.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for
and
having me.
Let's do it again.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
love
Holly.
it. Okay.
Thanks. See y'all.
Acrylic Financial Incorporated is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by those on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Acrylic Financial. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance, and some guests may have been paid a fee to be interviewed for this show.